Welcome, everybody, to 52 Living Ideas. Today, we have the delight of our once monthly get together with Struppi for a workshop. Today, we're going to be weaving space-time. We're looking at two frequency foureyes and the isotropic vector matrix. And that's all I'm going to say for now. And I'm going to turn it over to Struppi. Hi, Struppi.
Hi there. Hi everyone. Yeah, I've been looking forward to today's session again for a month or so, and I've been thinking about what to do, and there was the idea of doing this structure for a couple of sessions back now, and we kind of had a choice of doing it or not, doing this or doing something else, and so far we've always chosen the other options. But today I think it is as good a time to do this as any, and so we'll sorry I'm sorry about my my voice may be a bit shaky, and so might the internet connection be. But I hope we can manage nevertheless. And yeah, so the idea to do, or what to do today, would be the two frequency foureyes, as I would call it. So I've got one here to give you an idea of what it is and how it looks like. And what it is, well, now, how to begin? First of all, with the foureyes itself, perhaps just as a recap, when I speak of eyes, I speak of triangles, because all these structures of space-time have to do with closest drawn spheres, like these ones. And this would be a one frequency foureyes. So it's just four spheres, and they are closest drawn. They can't get any closer together. And this is the first sphere out of spheres. Some of you may recall our conversations a long time ago when we looked into what a sphere is and how they gather again to collect in systems of their own. And in synergetics, we understand that the structure is the first system, because it is the first time that we can collect these spheres, which are in this case subsystems, and they grow a body of their own, which has a membrane which is binding the inside of this to the outside of it, those two sides being the whole. And it also has its own center of gravity. And as such, since all of these spheres in this case are the same distance from their common center. And Jeannie, perhaps you could mute your mic, because I'm getting some kind of, thank you. Because these four spheres are all at the same, more or less the same distance from a common center, this system qualifies as a sphere in synergetic terms, because in synergetics, as Bucky states, a sphere is a finite number of vertices or subsystems constituting at least a membrane where all of the subsystems are approximately the same distance from an approximate center. And that would perhaps not be considered a sphere in terms of regular geometry, in terms of regular Greek geometry, that is. But on the other hand, what the Greek considered a sphere wouldn't really make sense in general terms in our experience and universe, because we never ever seem to find any continuous surfaces where one has an infinite number of vertices on exactly the same distance from the center. So since that is somewhat invalid in synergetic terms, we can live with this being a sphere, and then it is indeed the first sphere out of spheres. But this is, of course, not the end to the story, because on one hand we could create other structures, like this is an 8eyes here, so it's 6 spheres rather than just 4, and both of these are one frequency. Now, frequency in this regard has to do with the number of intervals between the spheres along the edge of the system. So in this case, we do have these two spheres being connected by this one vector here, which bridges that interval, the intervalley between the two spheres. So this is one step and hence one frequency. I do not indeed actually have a two frequency example at the hand of that structure, but I do have one of the 8eyes, so I can show you with that. So this is also, if we look at the edge here, there's two spheres and there's one jump between them, one gap, one interval, one finger, and that is one frequency. Whereas this one here is the same overall structure, but bigger. And instead of just a single sphere, a single interval, we do have two along this edge, right? There's 3 spheres here, 1, 2, 3, with 2 gaps between them, 2 jumps. So this is 2 frequency. This is a 2 frequency 8eyes. And that is what we speak of when we speak of frequency, the numbers of edge intervals, so to speak. And if I do, let me just see quickly if I have, let's take this one. I'll just quickly throw together an 8eyes wireframe, as they call them. So the fingers rather than the spheres. And I take this one. If it plays along, yes, here. Okay, so I'm just gonna put this together quickly so that I can show, oh no, without getting confused, preferably, so that I can show you what this change in frequency looks like when we're not just looking at the spheres, but we're focusing more on the vectors or fingers, which are the same as the gaps between the spheres in a way. So this is an 8eyes, and it's a 1 frequency 8eyes, right? So, and again, we do have these 2 spheres here. These are essentially the centers of gravities of 2 spheres, and there's 1 step between them, 1 finger. Now, the next higher frequency looks like this. This is a 2 frequency 8eyes. And again, the overall structure is identical, but the detail, if you like, is higher. It's like a higher resolution. And I have even a 3-frequency version here, where we can see there would be 1, 2, 3, 4 spheres here with 3 steps between them. Therefore, 3-frequency. All right, and that is a very, very, very useful way of speaking to these structures, because in synergetics we're playing with something that Bucky calls multiplication by division. Think of a cell, right? How do cells multiply? By dividing. And then we don't have 2 half cells, generally speaking, but we have 2 copies of one original. And similarly, in this case, we do not have, division and then suddenly there's lots of individual parts, but in this case, the division of the overall structure into more details, so to speak, and in a higher resolution gives us more information along the way. It gives us more to play with, and it gives us a greater and greater structure, because the same small, here, let me pick these up, this is gonna help. You see, I had a month to prepare, and I haven't. Plus I have lots and lots and lots and lots of these things, and lots more. And where are the small ones? Yeah, never mind. They should be in here. Ah, here, yes, yes. Oops. Okay. Now, here, this is a small foureyes, yes, a 1-frequency foureyes. And if I take not just one of them, but 4, like these, this is 4 of them, and I place them in exactly the same way that we do have these 4 spheres placed. What comes out of that, here's 2, there's a 3rd, there it's gone, 3, and a triangle, and then number 4 sits on top of those in exactly the same way, identical in the organization, so to speak, as the 4 spheres that make up each one of them. That gives us this, which is what we're doing today, the 2-frequency foureyes. And looking at that, you may look at it and perceive the 4 smaller foureyes constituting this one. Yes, Jeannie.
Are any of the elements shared, or are you using the exact same number of elements, beads in this case, for the 4 individuals and the 1?
In this case, it turns out when we're doing the foureyes as such, it's actually, they do share connections, but it is the exact same number of members as the individual ones. It's just an increase in connections. And this is actually something where I had I've created a table once, like a an Excel sheet with relevant numbers of spheres for foureyes and frequency, then the edge, then the triangle, the foureyes, the eighteyes, and so forth to the vector equilibrium. And I tried to figure out if there was a way of, telling by formula how many vectors in any one of these foureyes we would have. And I did that together with with the help of Kirby Erner. And we have indeed, in that case, figured out after some playing around that it is really so that we can just basically look at the number of the foureyes in here, and that is related to the number of spheres we would find in any given foureyes. It's just a frequency shift, because the whole thing is fractal in nature, right? So if my first foureyes here has 4 spheres in it, and then the next higher frequency has 10 spheres, but it has 4 of these smaller foureyes, there is a shift going on. Like we know that the number of foureyes in this is identical to the number of spheres 1 frequency less, right? 1 frequency before that. And in the next iteration, in this one, we do find that the number of gaps between the foureyes, which are eighteyes, follows the same pattern. So there's 4 eighteyes in this, where there's only a single one in this. And then on the next layer, there's the inverse foureyes, which is something well worth speaking to at some point, but I wouldn't go in too deep now. It's just that, generally speaking, all of these structures that grow out of the closest drawing of spheres follow this same pattern. And we can think of it as a tree. I think of it as a tree, where it is always growing in the same kind of pattern, the same kind of pathways, and we can shift our focus within that. We can look into the arrangement of the spheres, we can shift the center of focus into the foureyes, we can shift it into the eighteyes or the inverse foureyes, and after that larger complexes within this, and it's always going to be the same patterns repeating, which is because of its fractal nature. And
Can I interrupt for just a second?
yes.
Sorry. I have another meetup in a half hour, and I'm discovering that this isn't exactly what I thought it was going to deal with. So I'm going to bow out now, but thank you very much for your presentation, and good luck with the rest of it.
Well, thank you, and good luck with your other meetup then. Yeah, whatever one expects from this, it may not be what is expected, but it is, to me, I'm trying to give words to this, where I'm trying to communicate my experiences with these complex stuff, right? In the last sessions, we've looked into making simplexes, so to speak, like simple systems. And now we're tentatively taking our first steps into the complexity of this whole stuff, which isn't overwhelmingly complex unless we're trying to put it in words, right? So if we're not trying to put it in words, then it's really something we can indeed experience. It's not something we generally do experience in our day-to-day reality, because our day-to-day is very much shaped in the image of the frame of mind that we've been inheriting from perhaps the Greek or the Babylonians. So it's all boxes everywhere, and nobody is really, having trouble to imagine more boxes or boxes doing this or that. But once we're going into spheres and what they do, people are like, okay, how do I, what? Because there's a very deep lack of experience. And while there is ways of finding information on this, reading a fuller explanation, reading synergetics, looking at images and whatever, I find that the best way to really get a hold of this, to really fathom what is going on, is to actually play with materials, play with reality, because contrary to this idea that all of these things are invisible or whatever, they are very much visible once we allow them to take shape, right? This is like quantum mechanics, but it's to be played with our bare hands, right? It's like something to bring to life so that we can hold it and turn it and learn what it is that brings these together and makes them so. All right, but in the general interest of actually doing that, getting there, let's just give it a try. Let's do the deed, let's do the weaving and pick up where we left, which is, in my case, I'm trying to figure where I put my needles, or perhaps I'm going to just make some new ones, which is always an option and usually takes less time than trying to find the last ones. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make 2 more of these needles, and anyone who
Quick question.
watches this, yes, please.
Just out of curiosity, what gauge of wire do you use?
Haha, that's a good question, and I don't know if I can give you an answer in a language that we share. This is a very thin wire, I can tell you that much. It's less
Mine
than
is
a
too thick.
millimeter.
Yeah, no, mine is way too thick. I thought that. I was looking at yours going, yeah, mine doesn't seem as malleable as that.
Yeah, but perhaps it's fine to just take it as it is, as instead of
It works.
the string,
Well,
That's
it
another
does the job.
option, because yeah. All right, so I'm taking a length of this wire, I'm cutting it in 2, so I have 2 pieces, and then I'll wrap these into loops and then twist their ends together so that they become a closed loop. Yeah, and I hope that anyone who's perhaps watching this afterwards feels invited to follow along, play along. It's somewhat unnerving to see that the number of participants is constantly declining over time. But everyone has their reasons, I suppose, and
Today it might just be a matter of it was posted late.
yeah. I'm happy that I am here because I wasn't sure I could make it. I've been sick for a week.
It's a beach day over here.
Ah.
Anybody who's anybody is at the beach.
Crap, what does that say about me and you, Jeannie?
I know, losers.
Oh, well, I'm okay with that,
Or
if that's the definition.
perhaps you're just, you're good students of synergetics, and you pick.
I like his answer better. I'm
you
going to ask you some more questions about your
please
wire because
go
I just
ahead.
realized today that I do it differently than you. So you loop the entire loop. So I
Yeah.
just tried to do it the way you do. So you make an entire loop. I have not been doing
Yes.
that. I've been using it as an actual literal needle, and I only been
Ah.
looping the corner. So what
Yes.
do I do after this is looped? How do I get the string on?
You just pinch the loop so that it becomes like this. It's a more of a narrow thing. Like
Hmm.
this is the loop, and I
Yes.
pinch the point of it so that it's a little smaller, and that is good. All I do then is to take my string and put the end of the string through the loop here, and I'll pull it down into the twisted bit so that it kind of gets locked in between the wire here. Yeah.
Try that.
Okay, and what we're doing today is nice in two ways, because we haven't actually done foureyes. Because we began with the eighteyes and we continued with a dozen and eighteyes. So today we're going back to the beginning in one way, because the foureyes, of course, is the easiest and the first one of the structures to emerge out of the play of the spheres. But then we're taking that to learn a little bit about how we can move mind-wise within the structures that emerge, right? Like when I'm doing these things, and I'm doing them, constantly and in all kinds of levels of complexity, now I'm moving so freely in this framework that I have some flexibility in how I'm using the pattern to get this thing together. But what we're doing today is like a very simple first step kind of project, so to speak. So we get some idea of how it is that we can move in this. And this is by no means the only way to do it. Again, because the integral complexity of this matrix, what in synergetics we call the isotropic vector matrix, which is the structure, the underlying structure that is within the closest drawing of spheres. It's such a complex thing that there is always more ways to go, right? There's lots of ways to get around, and even if one gets lost somewhere or gets cornered, gets stuck in a corner and finds out that, this is not where I wanted to be. Sometimes, very often, it's possible to take a few turns and do kind of steps outside of the regular pattern, as long as we know the underlying pattern, that take us to a place where we can continue. But those are, the things that I find are best to figure out and to learn by doing. And what I'm providing today is really like what I found on my own terms, because I learned this kind of patterning from a YouTube video where someone was doing a dozen and 8eyes with like 5 beats for every finger. And I was like looking at it, you know, following along and going like, okay, this is cool, because if it works with this structure, it should work with all of them, right? And then I just took that pattern, that principle, that technique, so to speak, and just applied it to the other structures, because like conceptually I was already familiar with how these structures are organized, and that allowed me to just go and play. And it was actually this very structure that we're doing today that first taught me some very, very valuable lessons, because the first time I created this structure, I just went like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then I had the thing, and it looked like the thing unless I looked too closely, because then I realized that I had taken a couple of the pathways more than once, right? Like I went a few times through there to get back to that place to go there, but then I looked at it later and I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure there should be a way where I do not have this redundancy, where I don't go through the same pathway more than once. So I undid the thing and did it again and figured out how to do it without that redundancy. And I think that is truly worthwhile. But again, these things are a kind of play where it is the mistaking that shows the way, right? It's doing the mistake, going, oh, that was not what I wanted to do, undoing it, doing it again, another way, no, that's not the way, doing it back, and then finding the way, perhaps on the third time or whatever. And it's down to every one of us to follow that pattern, you know, that practice, even though it may be riddled with mistakes in the beginning. I wish we were all grown in a society, in a world where we were allowed to play and do make these mistakes when we were little, you know, when we still had the patience of the little ones that don't care how many times they make a mistake, because they still have fun doing it. So lots of us haven't had the chance back then, so we're now doing it on our own terms, and then it is really down to each and every one on their own to do it, even though there may be mistakes along the way. And if, again, we're doing this remotely, if we were doing it all in the same room, it would be much easier, and we would probably be able to communicate way more in much less time. But on the other hand, it is possible to do it this way, and I think that's incredibly awesome. You know, it really is. And it is a way, again, where we create these structures and they really come to life, right? Because this is not like a computer model or even a Zoom tool, for instance, just to give one example of a modeling kit where people have figured out ways of having hubs to put together with sticks, and then they make all kinds of shapes, but they aren't alive. right? Because the hubs themselves are little plastic balls, which, yes, they are alive, you know, but they are alive very rigidly, and they aren't really allowed to move and dance and play in the way that these structures are, because we're not forcing any one of these members to do anything they don't want to. We're just allowing them to collect in their own on their own terms. We're just pointing the way, and perhaps that's enough time to prepare. So I've got my string ready to go. I've got my 2 needles on the 2 ends here, and I've got a whole lot of beads next to me, and my beads today are gonna be
Struppi, how
these.
many beads do we need?
Yes, good question. So the number of fingers of this structure is 24, because every one of the small ones has 6 fingers, and there's 4 of these small ones in total. So 4 times 6 is 24. And then that's the number of fingers, right? So that's the minimum number of beads, so to speak. But if you do have spherical beads like these, where we can again pick any kind of finger frequency, and I'm gonna go with something like this today. I'm gonna do a finger frequency of 2, so every finger is gonna be 3 beats in my case. Yeah, because with this kind of beat, it's actually gonna be big enough for me to already put my finger through, and that generally is a very good size to play with. In this case, of course, if I multiply the number of fingers 24 by 3, I'm gonna be needing 5 beats, 60 beats. And you see how very quickly we get into large numbers of beats. Just imagine how many beats this is. I don't know if I've asked you before, but this is if I knew the number of beats in this in terms of dozens, but since that wouldn't help anyways, this is altogether 864 beats all in one, right? So yeah, we won't take it that far today, I promise. All right, so I'm gonna go with 3 beats for every finger. So if I'm beginning with the first triangle, the first eye, that is 3 times 3, 9 beats. Just put them here. And since we've done this a number of times and it's really just us, I don't know, there's a 4th member here, Brian, who isn't showing the video right now, but Brian, I don't know if you play with us or not, but if you do, just do along, and if you don't, just have your fun.
I just enjoy watching you all struggle.
Awesome. I won't go into too much detail on what I'm doing here today, because we've had some practice, and if there is anyone watching and they don't know what it is that we're doing, there is other videos, recordings of these sessions. All right, so now I've got my 9 beats on the string, and I'm probably gonna be explaining it anyways. I'm gonna close my first eye, or close the first circle, the first loop, which opens the first eye. You see, in synergetics, everything is poetic. It's like I'm closing an eye, but I'm opening it. What? Here, there's my first triangle. Yes. Oh, those beats are beautiful, Maritza. Those are great.
My sister
Nice.
introduced me
So
to like a discount site for them.
yeah, those are brilliant. Those are like mine here, like this. And the fun thing is that this is one of those structures where I haven't closed the umbilical cord off, so I can open it, and I do have a little thing in it. So this is a dozen around one rock crystal beads.
Very cool. You know, here at I actually found like different colored little pretty ones at like the dollar store.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
beads. They're just yeah.
Those are awesome. Yeah, one does develop a taste in beads with this stuff. It doesn't take long, and then one can't pass them by anymore. It's like, oh, those are nice. I wonder what they look like when I turn them
I'm
into
noticing
spheres.
that. I'm noticing that.
Yeah. All right, so first eye is done. I'm going to do a second eye. And so far, this is exactly the same thing we've been doing with all of these structures. And then that's already enough, actually, for what we're doing now. We just need a pair of eyes, because the foureyes has 3 fingers at every corner. And once I have this drawn together, we can take a look at those corners. Oops, untwist this. Yes, here. Okay. This.
Do I put a bead on each end, or I only work on one end?
I'm only putting them on one end.
Okay.
Like I put 2 fingers on one side of the string, and then I take the other side of the string through the last finger into where the other comes out. Yes. And with this, we've come back to this place where we're turning in a circle around one of these corners here, which is the one that I call the heavier side, which has more fingers pointing at that vertex here. So I'm always looking at the 2 places where I come out with my string, the 2 corners. Oh yes, beautiful.
That does look right.
It does. It looks different because you only have 1 beat for every finger. So you've got a bit of a sub-frequency going on in your fingers, which looks weird, arguably, but it is still the same thing as I have in my hands here. So looking at those 2 places where my string comes out, on this one side here, there is 2 fingers pointing, and on the other one, there's 1, 2, 3 fingers pointing there. That's the heavy side. That's the corner we're turning around. Okay? Now, 3 fingers at that corner is the number of fingers we want, because we want to make a foureyes, even though we want to make a bigger one, but it's the proper number of fingers, so we can close that corner already. And to close off this corner, we take the heavy side, the inside string, and take it out of that corner through the opposite finger, this finger here. So I'm coming out of this finger, and I'm basically going around the circle and going out of this, right? there.
Made my string ridiculously long. It's kind of annoying.
Yes, it always is. Okay. That looks perfect, Maritza. Yes. Yes, Jeannie, just like that. Exactly.
Really?
Yes. Now with that, we're coming out of 2 fingers with the string, right? So whenever we do that, we only just need 1 more finger to bridge the gap, as I call it. So we just put 1 more finger, in my case 3 beads, on one side of the string, and then take the other side of the string and go the other way through that finger, because every finger points 2 ways. Another way I say this is, I speak of making ends meet, because we're putting the string in where the other end comes out. And with that, when I draw this in, we have a foureyes, except in this case, it's only 3 out of 4eyes that are tied together yet. So while all the fingers are there, not all of the connections are yet. All right. And with that, I'm looking at the 2 corners where I come out with the string, and looking closely, I see that not all of the connections are present yet. So, on this here,
Okay.
this finger is connected to the one on the bottom, which is in turn connected to this outside finger. Oh man, this is so hard to do for the camera. But there is still a gap, like a missing connection. And I'm just gonna follow that. So I'll just take one end of the string and look at the corner where it comes out and put in the missing connection and follow it along. So once I get to the next corner, I look at that one and do the missing connection in that one. And after that, I should be in the same corner with both ends of the line. And then I'll just put the any one of them, either one of them, in where the other comes out. So after this operation, both ends of the line come out of the same finger, but on opposite sides of the finger. And then with that, the foureyes is complete. So I'm back at this place where I'm pulling on it and it's drawing together rather than drawing apart. That looks good, Maritza. Jeannie, how is it going? Okay, you're still drawing it apart, so you're one more connection perhaps.
Or maybe another bead. I think I need another bead. How many beads am I supposed to have now?
You should have 6.
Oh, I got them.
You had already, after the closing of the corner, we were coming out of 2 fingers and you put one in between them. With that, you should have all 6 accounted for.
Yeah.
All right. So now you just need to find the path around the last eye so that you end up in a single bead again, and a single finger. I think you may actually just need one more step, because it looks like you're already coming out of one corner. with the two sides of the line. So all you need is just take one of them and go in where the other comes out, and that should do the trick. Perhaps. But it's a bit hard to tell from this side of the screen because
Well, every bead should have two things coming out of it. And I've got that.
yes.
Every bead does have two coming out.
Yes, but can you hold it into the camera once more? All right, so that's a little too close. Yes, there. Okay, that corner looks good. That corner. Keeps moving.
Well, I'm moving it.
Can you show me where you're coming out with the wire? Okay, yeah, all you need is just to put one end of the wire in where the other comes out.
Okay.
That should be the last step on this one. Okay. And now comes the fun bit. Because we're growing a gap. we're growing an 8eyes now, but we're not directly growing it. We're growing it circumstantially, so to speak, because we're growing 4eyes, but we're growing them around an 8eyes. And the next thing, I mean, we're just growing more eyes, really, like we've been doing all along. So we're just gonna add, and in this case, it doesn't matter which side, we just add 2 fingers to either side, any one of the sides. And then close that eye, going around with taking the other end of the line, putting it in where the first one comes out. Oops. Okay, it looks like this for me. So
On a
I've got
funny
my
note, I just want to note that every time I first look up at yours, it's the opposite hand. So you must be right-handed.
Indeed.
I am left-handed, and mine always comes out. I always choose the opposite
Yeah.
side than you. I always have to twist mine to match yours.
Yeah, I mean, we could switch the video.
No,
Sometimes
it's fine.
that happens and doesn't help. But I think it's actually perhaps helpful for anyone watching this, so they have both handednesses provided.
That's not a big deal. I just swap it to go with your way.
Yeah, and it is also, you know, it's actually quite nice because I was just going to say something about the complementariness of these structures, right? Because if we were just adding 4eyes to 4eyes to 4eyes, we would get somewhere, but not to the isotropic vector matrix. We would go into the realm of what I call the physotropic vector matrix. So all kinds of golden ratio things like tetrahelix and these sorts of things, where amazing structures await our minding, but they have their own logic. It's like a more organic kind of side of universe, whereas the isotropic vector matrix, isotropic means it's everywhere the same, right? Vectors, because we're speaking of force lines here, relationships that are energetic, and it's a matrix because it's, well, it's a universal womb, you know, the womb of the spheres, and it is something that, again, we're not necessarily familiar with it on our day-to-day experience, but we are utterly submerged in it, where, right, because this is the kind of pattern that, for instance, happens with electromagnetic radiation, right? So if I have a star which has, you know, if we look at this vector equilibrium and we take its nucleus here as the star and the membrane around it as the sphere of light surrounding the star, because, you know, we're looking at the star and we think it's only there, but really the light goes out every way as a sphere around that star. That is, the entire sphere of light consists of electromagnetic radiation, right? So there is this radiation going in waves along the lines of the vector equilibrium, out, but also around, right? And every time we look, you know, like light, for instance, visual light, the one that we see, that's a slice out of the electromagnetic spectrum. But the spectrum is an analog spectrum, right? So there is no steps in it. It's this continuous waveband of frequencies. And if we chose any single frequency out of that spectrum and looked only at that, we would find this kind of vector equilibrium sort of growing out from that star center. But since it is that whole rainbow of frequencies, there's not just a single structure like this, but there is an infinite number of these structures, all interwoven on each of the frequencies, right? So, you know, at one wavelength where we would see red light, we would find a sphere of light emanating, but so would we find a blue one and a green one and so forth. And they're all woven through one another. They're interfering sometimes, but sometimes not, you know, and this is really something where everything is full of this structure. And that's why people have, you know, we're deep into paradoxic territory here, because in the common sense, the so-called space is vacuum, right? There's nothing there. There's very few molecules drifting about. But indeed, it is full. It's full of this electromagnetic radiation, and the radiation itself follows these pathways, creating nodes and creating a very visceral, very real kind of this isotropic vector matrix in the whole range of light, the whole range of the spectrum. But we, you know, we're only ever looking at photons, for instance, and then we take a little bit of that whole thing and focus in on one bit of that and say, oh, there's a particle of light, you know. but it's really a continuous waving going on, and the whole thing. And it's both particle and wave in one. Because indeed, every particle is a wave, and every wave is a particle. It's just that we weave the particle, we weave the wave into particles. And as the wave emanates, it can't do anything but particular. You know, it can't go any other way. The nature of the wave is to create these kinds of structures. And whether they are, you know, structures grown from that electromagnetic radiation where it may be intangible, or, you know, once we get into the geologic realm and the same kind of structure, for instance, is grown out of carbon, then we get diamond, for instance. That's the same kind of pattern. It's just grown not just in the way that the carbon element itself is an expression of this, but many of these carbon molecules, carbon elements, gather in this crystal structure, which again grows in the same pattern. The same way that, for instance, if we have water, you know, that is a molecule which is like a little element out of this framework, which then gathers and follows the same structural patterns. And as it grows into snowflakes, we do find again the same kinds of patterns emerging. Okay, I'm trying to put this stuff into words, but what we do find, and that is really fundamental. The isotropic vector matrix is not just one kind of structure. It's not just one kind of shape. It's actually a combination, a complementary combination of three. Because we do have the foureyes and the eighteyes. The eighteyes are always in between the foureyes, like the complementary, like the gap between the spheres. Like between these three or four spheres, there's a gap, right? And between those four little foureyes, there's a gap, the eighteyes. But you can see how if I were to put more foureyes on the rest of the open eyes of the eighteyes here, like so, then, hold on. We're getting there slowly. Here, this one. Oops. Here. This is a structure that commonly is called the Merkaba because of the naming conventions of the so-called sacred geometry. I would call this 24 around eighteyes. And again, we find that it is really the same thing as this. Like if I hold them so, we see that we have one of these pointing up, so to speak, and the second one going like this, pointing down. So there is one set of four little foureyes that sit on one set of eyes of the eighteyes in there, like this, and they are pointing one way. But if we put the other set of 4 eyes onto the remaining 4 out of the 8 eyes, they are naturally pointing the other way. It's the inverse. And it's almost like where we started this little sidetrack with the right and left hand. Because space-time has 2 sides, inside and outside. And those 2 are the same. They're just, when I take the glove of my one hand and turn it inside out, it fits the other. Right? So there is this complementarity to everything. And it's not just a complementarity in sameness, but in actual polyformity. Right? Because these 2 inverse sets of 4 eyes that we always find, which we also find if we look at, again, the vector equilibrium here. If I'm holding on to it on this axis, I'm putting my fingers into 2 foureyes right now, one on the top and one on the bottom, and they're opposed to one another, and they are the exact pair that is inverse, right? So like this. Right? And that is, so when we're looking into the isotropic vector matrix, this is important. It's not one kind of thing. It's not one kind of shape, not one kind of structure. It's one kind of general pattern of closest drawn spheres, which can grow all kinds of shapes, all kinds of structures, all following the same pattern, right? And if I have these 2 triangles here, one and another, they wouldn't naturally sit the same orientation like this, right? Where bottom and top are aligned in the same orientation, but they would be twisted like so. So one points to me on the top here, and one points to the camera on the bottom, right? They are, oops, like this. Inverted, polyform, complementary. And looking at what the spheres are doing here, we have a triangle of spheres on the bottom, which goes into a single sphere in the middle, which goes into a triangle on the top, which is the inverse. And that's a general basic pattern that constitutes over and over and over the vector, the isotropic vector matrix. It's, if we turn it the other way around, like this one, this is a dozeneighteyes. So we have an 8eyes in the middle here, and on top of it sits one 4eyes, and on the bottom sits another, and they're also inverse, right? Like right now, if I hold it like this one on the bottom points towards the camera, while the other one points to me. And we do see now that if we're looking at the spheres, we have a sphere on the top here, bloop, sitting on a triangle of spheres, sitting on an inverse triangle of spheres, sitting on a single sphere. So it's the same thing, just shifted, right? Like, okay, I don't even know if what I'm trying to communicate makes any sense to anyone but me. But it took me a long time of playing with these structures to really begin to see these patterns, right? And have them make sense to me. where, to me, when I look at an 8eyes, for instance, I always see it as 3 spheres sitting on 3 spheres. Right? It's a triangle of spheres sitting on a triangle of spheres, where I think most people are so attuned or conditioned to see an 8eyes like this. They think of it being a pyramid sitting on a pyramid. But that is, it makes no sense to me at all, because the pyramid is not even really there. It's just something that the triangles are doing. So to me, it's a triangle sitting on a triangle, and as such, looking at it, I always have this inversion going on. The one that is facing you right now, pointing up, and the one facing me, pointing down. Right? And this whole thing is just a set of these complementary inverted triangles, like so. Right? It's always like this, up, 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 and never like this. But that is the way that we're tuned. That is the way we're conditioned, because in our manufactured reality, everything is always parallel, and hence always the same orientation. Actually, with the squares, it's very hard to invert them, you know. If you invert a square, it looks exactly the same. So the entire polyformity is gone. Okay, enough of it. Let's go back to weaving. But this is really, you know, I hope I'm just throwing this stuff at you all in the hope that something sticks. And perhaps it does not all make sense right now, but perhaps as you play more with it, you will go at some point like, oh, that's what, okay. But then at least you've heard it before. That's kind of my motive for doing this. So, if I recall correctly, if this thing here reminds me correctly, we were at the place where we have had a 4eyes finished, and we've got one additional eye on it. Cool. Now this one eye that we've created here, that's one of the complementary eyes. It's one of the eyes of the inverse. And with that, we just leave it be. That's cool, you know. If we're now looking at the two sides where we're coming out, as we would always do, one side still has 2 fingers. That's arguably the lighter side. The other one, on the first glance, has 4 fingers pointing at it, because that's the one that we've just added, plus the 3 from the 4eyes that was present here. So how do I explain this? I would be thinking now that this one eye that we've added here, that's another one of the 8eyes that were growing in between the 4eyes. And the 8eyes as such would have 4 fingers around every corner. And out of those 4 fingers that we have present already here in this corner, only 3 of them belong to the 8eyes, because the one that is here on the bottom, that's not actually related to the 8eyes. So if we don't mind that one, because it's the irrelevant to what we're doing right now, this corner that we're growing here has 3 fingers, 3 out of 4. We need another eye for that one. Oh, another finger. And usually I would say we're adding 2 fingers to the light side and then go from there. But in this case, because we want to grow an additional 4 eyes onto the 1 eye that we're adding next, we're actually going in reverse. We're adding the 2 fingers to the heavy side, because the first one that we're adding to that shall be the last that we return to when the 4 eyes is done. Okay? That's really something. Again, there's many ways of turning around in this thing. But the way that I think of it is to make it simple. I am saying to myself, the first shall be the last. So I know which finger I want to end on when this little sidetrack of growing another 4 eyes is done, because that's going to be this finger here. I need another hand. Okay, like this finger, this one. That's where I want to end when I'm done with this additional 4 eyes, so that I can go on from there, right? So that shall be the last. But to be the last, this is going to be the first that I add now. So rather than adding 2 fingers to the outside, to the light side, on this step we're adding it to the heavy side. Okay? I hope this makes sense.
I skipped ahead and now I have to undo.
Perhaps not. Perhaps you can show me what you... Oh, yeah, you've got a nice 6 eyes there, 6 around 1. But you don't have any room for the gap anymore.
No.
Yeah.
That's okay, I'll fix it.
Yeah,
that's what I get.
That's what you get, exactly. That's what you get for just going ahead while I go on an endless sidetrack of trying to explain all of this.
I think I'm grown.
Sorry.
It's okay. No worries. I spend a lot of time doing and undoing this stuff.
Yeah, that's good. And it's really such a balancing act, because this stuff is tough enough to communicate in person. Doing it all remotely really adds to the challenge. And I mean, I could just do it, we could just be doing it, and I explain step by step what this is the next thing to do, this is the next, and it would be a lot easier to do and follow along.
I feel like you're explaining
helps. I'm also
helps.
trying to take this opportunity to explain what it is that we're doing.
Right. I like that better.
Good.
I mean, I was listening. I just was trying to multitask.
And that's all fine.
Well, not if you get it wrong.
So my current state is that I have this pair of eyes here attached to the 4 eyes. And kind of naturally, the last one I added wants to fold in like so. And now you can sort of make out how that may grow into an 8eyes. And I'm now on this one on the top here, rather than on the side way, the one to the side, which here.
Yeah. All right, so now I'm back. I've undone all my error. And if I understood you correctly, and sorry, I'm repeating what you said, but if I understood you correctly, I want to actually add my 2 beads to this heavier side instead of the outside.
Yes, except you're still in 2 beads right now. You still need to
I didn't fix it.
That
One more.
One step more to take back.
Got it. I see.
Oh, gee, that looks good. I'm trying to make sense of it. Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm in only 1 bead, and this side, I'm going to add 2 fingers.
Yes.
Okay.
On the heavy side.
Yeah, got it. Do that so I can catch up. The moral of the story, folks, don't jump ahead.
Or do, but beware that you may jump mistakenly and then you jump
Indeed.
Sure. I mean, you could have done it, you know, and that was also good. You know, you've seen now that there is many ways to do these things and not all lead to the same outcome. And what you were going for with what you had there is this, what I call the isotropic vector matrix. And phi, you know, is another name for the golden ratio. And actually that complex that you had of the 2 4eyes, or 6eyes, 6 around 1, that is like the beginning of a spiral pattern, then that if we had it flat looks like this.
Okay.
But we can also grow that as a 4eyes structure, and then it actually turns into like a shell kind of thing. But this is a golden ratio spiral. This is a Fibonacci thing.
Oh, wow.
And what you had was basically the equivalent to this first pair of eyes here.
Yep.
1
I see
and
it.
1.
Cool.
And then 2, and then 3, and 5, and 8, and so forth.
Cool.
So you were really basically going for Fibonacci there, which is fun.
All right, so now I find at the loss for what to do.
That, but perhaps once you know what you're doing.
Exactly. Not today, though. Today, I need to come up with.
So here, this is the same thing. It's just in my case, the beads naturally kind of want to fold down. So this would be the way it looks for you.
Okay.
And this is what they kind of want to do. They want to already sit there like this.
Yep.
And now we have 1 eye out of a 4 eyes. If we only look at the last one, the last eye that we did, and we grow a 4 eyes from this.
Yes.
And again, we kind of keep in mind that there is this one finger here, this one, that is the last one that we want to return to continue our overall structure. And in my way of doing it, that would be the side where I add on 2 fingers now. So it's kind of like I keep that one as the thing that I turn around, but I'll turn back to it in the end of this, call it a side quest, you know, where we're growing a little foureyes now, and that one thing that we did in the beginning is good that it's there, because we know we can keep it as something that we return to once we finish this. All right, so now essentially you take 2 fingers on the light side. And I think we actually lost Brian.
Oops.
But I'm so grateful that the 2 of you are still around. This would be a lot less fun if it was just me. It would be more like my everyday.
Because it might be faster.
I know that it would be faster, but you know, what good is it if only I know what I'm doing? What we're doing here is we're following instructions, right? We're growing a structure, and that instructs each one of us on what this
Did
is
I do this
doing.
right? I have doubts.
You do? I think you're looking good.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay. I see. All right. Good. Mine does match yours. All right. Awesome.
Yes.
So we're building up the 6th one. Okay.
Yeah, but now if we're looking again at the 2 sides that were coming out, one is a light side, 2 fingers there. The other one, the heavy side, has 4 fingers all accounted, right? But one of them we can just ignore right now because it's not part of the, it's not relevant to the foureyes that we're growing right now. Okay. Here, if I'm holding this into the camera like so, here on the bottom, that's the foureyes we finished. And then we grew one more eye. That's one of the 8eyes. And we're actually in this corner right now. And one of the 4 fingers there, this one, that doesn't really belong to the foureyes that we're doing right now. It belongs to the 8eyes. So we can ignore it for now. And looking only at the 4eyes that we're growing right now, we see that we have 3 fingers of it in that corner. And 3 is what we need, so we can close that corner.
We close it, ignoring the 1.
Yes, so
That's confusing.
if I'm unfolding this, and again, mine does kind of naturally want to fold into shape already. If I unfold it a little, this looks like half of a hex. Yes, this has 3 eyes. And I'm coming out of this beat. I'm not going into this because I already went there. I'm going into the next one, into this one.
Okay, I get it. Sort of.
Yeah. I hope that any of this helps anyone. It's so much easier to just, you know, do it step by step and not bother with trying to understand how and why. And we're a lot more difficult and complex because I'm trying to explain and get that across why it is that we're doing this.
In the long run, it's easier because when you have a little bit more understanding, it's easier to go off and create your own.
Yes, I agree. It's the whole point.
Yeah.
All right. After that, we're closing that corner, right? So we're coming out of 2 fingers.
Right.
And when we do that, we add 1 finger in between.
Right.
Bridging the gap. And it looks so different on genies that it's really gonna help. Oh, welcome to my world of infinite complexities. But it's all the same, you know, no matter
Just
what it looks
fascinating.
like.
I love seeing genies for that exact reason. Jeannie, are you making jewelry with yours? Because I always see you use beads that look like they're for jewelry purposes. You are making jewelry. Nice. Oh, hey, I've got 2 little dancing foureyes.
2 little foureyes, yes. But as with the first one that we did, if you look closely at the sides where you're coming out now, you notice that
Oh, yes.
there's still the missing connections, yes?
Right. Yep, I see it.
And this is where you do look at the whole thing again and try to make out which one it was where we said the last shall be the first. No, the first shall be the last. So in my case, I'm coming out of this finger here, which is generally speaking somewhere on the outside of the whole thing. And the one that I want to go to is this finger, because that's where I can continue on from, right? So I need to take the inside string, the heavy side, this one, into this bead, this finger, and take the other one that's on the outside and take it through this finger and then into that as well. So both of them will end up in this here finger.
Well, I think I understand. Let's try it and see.
Yes. There's no way around that. we're getting back to the 8eyes that we're growing right now.
And we're closing open corners.
Yes. So I have taken one end and done one step with that and got into the finger where I want to go, and then take the other end and take it 2 steps to get to the same finger.
So Struppi, I have a question.
Yes.
So looking here, I'm back to, I have my ends. Oh, wait, he's dancing too much. Quit dancing, buddy. So here I'm coming out of, let me turn it this way so you can see. I'm coming out of this guy and this guy. So this one here is the light side. This is the heavy side. Which one do I want to go into for continuation?
There's an added level of flexibility right now. I would say you take your, I suppose it's your left hand, that one, yes, and put it into the other.
Okay.
And then you'll notice that you can flip it dances, yes. So if you turn it one way, it looks like you're on the outside. Here, I can show you what I mean. I've come to where I want to be, right? I'm coming out of this finger, which is right now on the inside. But look, if I turn this thing like so, suddenly the same finger is on the outside.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, mine does the same. Oh,
yes.
Okay.
There's this kind of flexibility to it.
Okay. Okay.
And at this point, it's not, there's not much set in stone here.
Okay.
But once we grow this more and more complex, it's getting more defined what is, right? So I've turned it so that the one that I come out here, that's this one. And that's, again, one of the fingers of the 8eyes that I'm growing here in the between. Yes, just
Okay.
like that. And I recall how I was like last time we could have been doing this already when Joe was with us for the first time, and he had such a hard time doing even the other thing that we were doing. Just imagine we would have done this. It's so complex. I mean, and this is like the first level of increased complexity, and this is still something where I can lead you along the way and tell you, do that, look for this, look for that. But there is a point where these things become so complex that it wouldn't help anymore. And the only thing that helps you on that place is when you actually know what you're doing and you do it on your own terms. So this is where we're really trying to do the groundwork to get you to be fluid in this language, to be capable of taking your own turns. Okay. So Jeannie, I just really hope that you're still with us on this. We'll see. Let's do one more thing, and then perhaps it begins to get clearer, hopefully. Okay. So looking at my constellation, I get these little 2 foureyes connected by one eye between them. And if this is the finger that I'm in right now, I want to go pick up this finger of the first 4eyes. And when I'm in there, like looking at where I am right now, and I'm looking at these 2 sides, my light side here has 3 fingers right now, but I'm looking only at 2 of them because I'm now focusing on the 8eyes that I'm growing in between all the rest. And for the 8eyes, only these 2 fingers are relevant. And the one that is on the top here doesn't really matter. So looking at that, I've got 2 fingers on this end, and on the other side, minus the 2 that I don't mind right now, there's 4, which is what I need. So I can close that corner. So the 8eyes that we're growing in the middle has on this side these 2 fingers and the 2 on the other side here, plus the 2 that point away, which aren't part of the 8eyes. Right, so there's this 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 4 is what we need, so we close this corner. So we take the heavy side string this one, and get out of the other side here. Okay, let's hope that's clear. And with that, I'm in this situation. Or that way around. And that's a case of coming out of two fingers, so I need one finger to bridge the gap. I'm really astonished by how difficult it is to communicate this, because when I'm doing it for myself, it's so simple. Like, this is so simple. But
Does
I
this
mean,
does this look correct to you?
yes.
Okay, good. All right, I chose the right one. Yes.
Yeah.
Thought that looked like the one that had four. I wasn't sure. Okay. So now I just
Now you just need one finger in between them, and then you are in this place.
right.
And that's the halfway point. That's actually half of what we're doing today.
Exciting.
And Jeannie, while I don't have an example at the ready of the thing that you're doing, I can promise you that once it's done, it's just going to be beautiful. It's really a beautiful thing, even like that sub-frequency. Yes.
Kind of looks like a square. Is that supposed to look like that?
Yeah, because it's half of an 8-eyes between the two 4-eyes.
Right. Okay.
You see how the square actually moves?
Yes, it doesn't want to stay that way.
Exactly.
Ooh, but it's pretty to look at that way.
Because the square is not a structure. It's just something that the
Mm-hmm.
structures of the triangles do.
Indeed.
And they play together.
Yes, note to self. I need thinner string and thinner wire for this.
But from where I'm sitting, I think the combination of the string and the beads that you have is quite good.
It's okay. I think my wire is a little thick though for going through, because some of them I'm going through so many times. I'm starting to find resistance with the wire and the string.
Yeah, sure. But I can tell you that if you're doing like a full on any one of these structures where we actually we grow not just the membrane, but the vectors that are completely enclosed, like the inside vectors, the number of connections in any one of those is 4 at most.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So
and then it'll be fine. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Ooh. Nice. Jeannie, how's it going? Good. Can we continue?
Yeah, continue. I think I've chosen a different path here, but I'm good.
No.
Okay. If indeed you we've lost you now along the way, then I can only suggest, I hope perhaps you may do this another time, and perhaps do it with the double, like 2 beats for every finger, so it is a lot more clear what is eye and what is corner and these things. That's the kind of, really a kind of a struggle with this, when you're not yet familiar with what it is that you're doing. But it's also a great opportunity, because you can grow the same structures. I've said this in the sessions before. It's very, very good to grow the same kind of structures with varying numbers of beats for fingers, because that gives you both a sense, like practice on what it is that you're doing, right? And every time you do it, it's gonna get more easy. But it also gives you a set of examples of how vastly different the same exact identical structures can look, depending on the numbers of beats per finger, right? It's really mind-boggling how different they do look sometimes, and still are the same thing, like the same, like identical. Yeah. All right, so I'll only focus on Maritza now from here on out. So I think we're both in the same place. Yes, we've got this kind of situation. Yes. So let's add another eye to this. And right now we're at a completely balanced point, so it doesn't matter which way. And still, the one that you're adding first shall be the last. Okay. Because you notice perhaps that the last eye that you closed, that's another one of those open eyes of the 8eyes. We're not growing any 4eyes on that right now, because that would be possible, but it would take us to a different shape. Yes, so there you are, exactly. Oops. What's this? Here, yes. Like that. Yeah. Now I'm gonna flap this eye sort of like this, so it's kind of folding in, like,
Okay.
it's the one of the 8eyes. And now let's grow a 4eyes on this. So this is one eye, and we're growing a 4eyes on top of it. So I'll take, to be consistent, I'll take now the light side here, and I'll add 2 fingers on that side. This is a case of limiting down infinite possibilities to a digestible set, so that we're getting through, getting to where we want to be by casting out all the other infinite options.
This here.
Yes. Okay. Kind of looks like this mess.
Two. Oh, no, you don't. Okay. I thought you were in there, but you're not. Okay. That is this. Okay.
Okay, so looking at the two sides where you're coming out, one has 2 fingers, and the other, if we count all of them pointing at that corner, it's already 5.
Yes,
right?
I see that.
But we're ignoring 3 of them. We're looking only at the one eye that we already have of the 4 eyes that we're growing right now, and we've actually grown the second eye of that 4 eyes now. So we have a pair of eyes here, and there's 1, 2, 3 fingers, 1, 2, 3 fingers here, and that's what we need. So we close this corner, and we take this side of the string.
I see it. Yep. Because
and we
it's the 3.
go through this finger here.
I see it. Okay.
Oh man. It's so silly. There's so many things that I every time I'm watching the sessions that you guys do on synergetics, I'm like, there's so many things I want to say and so much more I want to tell and stuff. And now we got sidetracked in this practical side of things, where I think I'm talking a lot about the underlying stuff and all, but it's like so wrapped up in the practical side that I don't even know if anyone else will go through watching us do this all.
Oh no.
Hopefully.
Okay, so I'm in 2 fingers here.
Yes, perfect.
So I need another bead, right?
Yes, to bridge that gap.
Ah, you already did it. I see.
You know, Struppi, when somebody's watching it, then they can always stop, or they can go back
or skip ahead.
You know, so don't give up. Don't give up.
I'm not giving up. I'm just enduring the. I'm practicing patience.
I often get lost. I mean, I enjoy getting lost. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Mine too. One of my hobbies.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just such a different approach than, you know, let's look at a bunch of slides, for instance.
Indeed, which is what I like. Oh, wait, am I supposed to have another little 4 eyes?
Yeah, you are. But again, you only have 3 out of 4 eyes connected, and you'll find that there's still some connections missing in the corners here.
Yep.
And this time around, the finger that you try to get to end up in is this one here. So it's one of the 8-eyes fingers again.
Let's see if I do that right. Okay, so I'm going to figure it. I see. You need 4.
So there's 1 step on one side of the line and 2 steps on the other. And then you should be inside one of the fingers of the 8-eyes.
This guy. I do it right. It's this guy.
Well, if you remember, the last time I succeeded, so
Yes. I mean, that's the beauty of the simple structures, right? Because the last time we did the dozen and eighteyes, which is one of the three basic structures, right? And the only thing to know to get to that is to have 5 fingers for every corner, and then it's going to be fine. That's a very simple pattern, comparatively speaking. If we're looking at this one here, where we're dealing with looking ahead, ignoring certain things at certain times, focusing in on other things, you know, there's so many moving parts. And
Is this
how
correct?
is it
Did I
going?
go wrong somewhere?
I think you may have ended on another finger. That's sort of an outside finger rather than one of the eighteyes fingers. Look at mine here.
Yep. All right, let me undo and try again.
That's the thing where I said before, the first shall be the last, because now we're at the last of this foureyes.
I thought you were trying to be poetic.
Yeah, I know. I'm not.
Nope, you were being literal. Got it.
I'm trying to use mnemonic devices, you know, and I find the poetry of these things to be pleasant, like saying the first shall be the last, or making ends meet, you know. Those phrases already have their histories with us, but with this they kind of relate so viscerally to something.
Okay, so I'm back
better.
here. And now if I'm looking at it.
Yes. Now if you tip that foureyes over so that it goes, yes, that way. Yes.
Okay.
That looks good.
Now, but now I need to connect.
Now you're like this.
No, though. I have unclosed edges though.
Yes.
So I have to
On
seal
the
them.
foureyes.
Yes, my foureyes is open edges. I'm just trying to, I'm uncertain as to how best to close them.
You just take one end of the line and do 2 steps to go around this eye that is missing and back into the finger where you are now.
Oh, okay. I see. Go into here. And then this one. Okay, I get it. You. That's what I did say 2 steps. Okay, and then you go back into here.
Yeah, and that's the kind of flexibility that these things have there, where the more complex the things go, the more ways it is there are to get lost, right? And to end up in a place where we wouldn't want to be. But once we know the terrain, meaning once we know our way around the spheres and the isotropic vector matrix, there's lots and lots of ways in which we can take detours, say take only one side of the line and go a few steps around to pick up fingers that we have missed
Does this look
Yes.
correct now? Yay. Okay, perfect.
Yes, but it may look a little confusing because you have the same way as you had in the beginning. There's a way in which you can flip this foureyes out or in. You know, it's got this little hinge.
Yes.
And you want to have it sit in like this. So if I'm looking at this side where I'm coming out of that finger, I want it to look like this. Mm-hmm. It's like a little hat that you can put whoop, like so, and then it's yes, like that. Okay. 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 And when you look at that corner now, here.
Okay.
Now, looking at the corners where the lines come out on this one side, that's where it's only the 3 fingers of this last foureyes that we did.
Yes.
But on the other side, we have 5 fingers meeting, and that's all we need for this. So, do you see the 8eyes growing?
I don't see the 5 fingers.
No.
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's that. All right.
Okay. And there's one finger here. I'm gonna try to hold it like so, like this. If I look at it this way, I've got the 3 foureyes, 1, 2, and 3.
I see them, and then there's
them is
one.
the 8eyes growing.
Where is your? So I have an extra bead. That bead right there. Is that supposed to be there?
Yes, it's all supposed to be like that right now. It's right now I'm taking the heavy line where there's 5 fingers.
Yes.
And I'll take it. It's coming out of this finger. And I'll take this string into this finger.
Okay. All right. I see it.
Okay.
We're uniting 5.
Yeah, we're closing. If we ignore on that, actually there's not 5, there's 6 fingers there.
There are, but one of them doesn't matter
we're
because
ignoring 2 of them.
Okay.
Yeah, we ignore 2 of them, and without those 2, there's only 4, and that's the number of fingers for the 8eyes.
Like that. These are the only 4 you're not ignoring. I got it. Okay. That makes sense. And now, because I'm coming out of 2, I need to add another.
Yes. Yes,
finger.
you're bridging the gap.
Yes.
We're closing the corner of the 8eyes, and we're getting ever closer to completion.
Oh, I like that much better. Completion. Okay. What? Yes. Okay. Well, that's pretty looking. Ooh, it's less dancey.
Yes.
It's dancing a little less.
Okay. So this is where I am. I'm coming out of that finger. And what am I doing next?
Ask me.
Actually, let's do the following. Looking at this, again, there's so many ways to go now, but let's take, I'm coming here out of this, yes? And
Okay.
I'll pick up this finger because it's already present. That's one of the, like, in this corner here where the one that is
I
the
see
most
it. Yep.
complete right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Yes.
Let's complete that because it's already almost done in terms of the eighteyes that were growing there. So I'm gonna go through this finger and then I'm coming out of two fingers, so I'll add one finger between them.
Got it. That makes sense. Ooh, yeah, this is okay. So you can see this guy. All right. Is this what? Oops. This. Yes. Okay, cool. Right. Yep. I see that. Okay. I believe we are matching. Awesome. Okay. Ooh. Wait, Struppi, you're muted.
Sorry, however that happened. All right, so looking at it, we've got this kind of a trunk of a foureyes now, the big one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm coming out of this finger.
Yes.
And I find that this eye here on the side isn't yet connected. The fingers are there, but the connections aren't. So I'll pick those up right now. I'll just take one end of the line and go through both of these fingers and back into the finger where I am now. Okay, that way the eighteyes is complete. The one in the middle of the whole thing is complete. And we can go on to the last little foureyes.
I
Not
see.
having to
Okay.
worry about.
I got it. I see
That's
what you're doing.
again the bit with the picking up things along the way that are already there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing a very, like the extra steps that we're taking now, they are easy to look at, you know, and not, it's not too complex of a sidetrack.
Okay.
Just two little steps and back into the finger where the other line comes out.
Yes, except now everybody's connected. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
And now the whole thing that we've got so far, all the connections are present and we don't need to worry about any of it anymore. And we can just focus on the last foureyes that we grow on this eye. One of its eyes is there, and yes, that one. So we're just growing a foureyes on top of that. All right. So
Okay.
adding one more eye to that one.
And because it's stable right now, it doesn't matter which side, yes?
Indeed, because the whole thing is symmetric.
Yep. Okay. Okay. So I have my 3. We said we're adding the 4eyes to this one, so let's just swing this way.
So all you need to look at right now from the complex that we've gone so far is that one eye, the last on the top. And if you only look at that, plus the one that you've just added now, you find that in the heavy corner, there's 3 fingers, so we can close that corner.
Heavy corner has 3 fingers. This is the heavy corner. These are 4 fingers. Nope, because I'm ignoring that.
There's a lot to ignore there. There's a complete foureyes that you can
I see it. Yep.
utterly
Okay.
ignore.
I'm just trying to think it. You're right. So I think I'm gonna go into this one. This one going into here.
You're probably going along the finger of the 8eyes now.
I think that's.
No.
I'm not sure. I think that's what I just did. What does that look like to you? What do you think?
Yes, I think that's good.
Okay, let me add my closing the loop finger.
Mm-hmm.
So well, that looks kind of funny.
Oh yeah. Okay, so you took it. Yeah, you took
Wrong
it
way?
the wrong way. Just
Oops.
take out that last finger and that the closing gap, closing corner line that you were
Okay.
bridging with that gap. Just take those back and reorient yourself, because I think you've flipped the eye out. You've actually grown one of the inverse foureyes now.
Oops. Okay, let's see. So I'm here.
Yeah,
Oh, wait,
and
I
I
gotta
said
take
that
this out.
looked fine, but it wasn't.
Ah,
Which
dare
is
you
a
lie
sign
to
of
me?
my getting
How dare you lie to
tired.
me? No worries,
I
no
had a
worries.
feeling that I wasn't looking closely, so sorry. That
No
one's on me.
worries. Learn and experience. Okay, so I'm back here, and you're saying
Yes,
I'm actually flipped the wrong way. So I
yes,
should probably
flip
flip
it.
this
Yes,
way.
that way. Perfect.
And then I'm gonna connect this guy then. Then I'm connecting this corner.
Yeah, you're going from where you are now to where your thumb was just a second ago.
This one. Yes. Okay. Let me do dynamics. Swing.
You're still going along a finger of the 8eyes, but you're going to the. It should be quite self-explanatory right now. There's like one finger that points to the corner that you still need to connect up.
Looks like 4 to me, which is giving me pause. Looking at it here. If I go
Yeah,
into
there's
this
actually
finger,
6. No.
yes, there's actually 6. That's why I'm unsure. Am I supposed to be going into this one right here? Needs to be okay, 3. Yep, it's this guy. All right. I think I found him. I think I found it. It's 3, and it should only be 3.
Yeah.
I think I found it. Let me pull it through, and then I'll show it to you before I put the finger, the closing finger. You can tell me if that looks. I think that's it.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
I saw that, so that makes sense to me. Yay.
That's good. Congratulations.
Oh, don't congratulate me too hard. This was take 2.
Yeah, but you know that sometimes that is a reason to congratulate, because realizing a mistake is
Yeah.
more than most people do.
Ah, okay. And now, yes, that looks right. It looks, yay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And with that, you'll find that there's again this case of there's still one eye unconnected. The fingers are present, but the connections aren't. And I'm coming out of this finger right now. This one. Oh, yeah, that one. So I want to do the knot in the tip here. So I'll take the other end of the line that's not yet in the tip and take it through this finger and that 2 steps so that I get into this corner where I can do the knot. Okay. Just following the finger points because the connections aren't there in the corner.
Okay. Okay. So it's 2. It's going to go through 2 of them to get back to the top.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, it's getting stiff. Come on.
And after that, I'm coming out of 2 fingers here at the top. And I'm in the same corner with the line, so I'm gonna do a knot, a reef knot there to close the whole thing. After which I just hide the ends of the line and the 2 adjacent fingers adjacent to the knot, and I'll cut those off afterwards.
So last time I thought we had chosen the hard one. I had no idea that this one was more, I mean, because it looks more basic and simple, but a lot to it.
It is. And I mean, there's no easy way to learn these things, I think, other than doing again and again and again and getting lost enough times to know how to find one's way. But this is really, generally speaking, this is like the easiest of the complex structures. And
how many times did you go back through 2 fingers to close it? Because I know you did that a couple times, and this last time it completes.
How many times did I?
You know, where you have to go around the circle to get back to the place.
I don't know how many times.
So does this look correct?
Something... Yes.
You got it.
Yes. I've gone ahead and done my knot here in the corner, after which I put the line ends through the 2 adjacent fingers, so the knot is between these 2. Yeah. And after doing the knot, I put the lines through the 2 adjacent fingers so that I can cut off the lines, but not do it where the knot is, but one finger removed from that.
I
So
see. I see.
if I ever need to, I can undo the knot and still have some extra line to grow from there. Yeah, Jeannie, that's a very complicated question to answer, because I don't know. The thing knows. You know, I don't need to worry about the details as long as I know what to look for along the way.
Let me ask this. Is
Yes.
everything symmetrical? Does every bead have X number of, strings through it?
Well, I can show you. Looking at this, if I look at any one of the exterior corners here, you see there's three lines between the three fingers. So there's 2 lines coming out of every one of those. And the other kind of corners here, there's 6 fingers around this corner. And between these 3 here, there's 3 lines. And between these 2, there's only 1 line going from around this. So in the end, every one of the fingers that are on the outside have 2 lines going through them, and every one of the fingers that are on the inside here actually have 3 lines going through them. That helps. And that's, even though it was not the easiest thing perhaps to get to this point, what this has us now, what this helps us to grasp, I think, is the origin of mistaking a surface. Because the Greek, if we recall, they called this shape a tetrahedron, meaning 4 faces, and they think of it being surfaces. And this, compared to just a single one of these, if we only looked at one of these 4eyes, the eye is a very big hole for that side. Now, in this case, where we look at the big thing, every one of the big eyes, so to speak, or facet eyes, has 4 little ones. And that is a lot more like a surface.
Right.
Right? On the next higher frequency, the 3 frequency, or maybe I do have here, that's better, that's the same kind of thing. On this one, this is 3 frequency, the big eye, the facet eye, has 9 little eyes. So there's lots and lots of these fingers along the eye, right? So it's a lot more like a surface now. And even more so on the next higher frequency here. The real eyes, the individual eyes, are getting ever more minute compared to the overall facet eye, right? And that's where we have something that we could consider a surface now, a phase, right? And if we take it to our experience and we look at any surface around us, what we consider a surface, science has been telling us forever that there is no surface. Like even if it's, I don't know, iron or lead, a lead sheet, there's lots of holes in there. Tiny, tiny, tiny holes. by tuning into those, we find there's atoms, and even those are mostly empty space, as they say. And that's how this is possible. Like what we perceive as a surface is just so because the gaps get so minute that we can't perceive them at some point, you know. Like this is still big enough for me to put my fingertip in, at least. But if it's any smaller than that, it's impenetrable for my fingers. So it becomes finger tight, so to speak. Smaller than that becomes watertight or airtight, and so forth. And it's easy to see how we could mistake this for a face and say, well, it's 4 faces, it's a tetrahedron. That there is a very big difference between generally calling the whole thing a tetrahedron and stating axiomatically that it is made of 4 surfaces, 4 faces, versus actually being mindful of the presence of the gaps of the eyes. And that's where synergetics is so different from the old axioms of old geometry, because there is no continuous surfaces in synergetics. Even if we're looking at something grown from a sheet of metal, we are mindful of the gaps, right? And I think that this is a nice way to begin to get a grasp of that. Because now we have something here where, for all intents and purposes, we can still say there's the eyes there, the facet eyes, but we also have something present already that feels a lot more like a surface, right? So I hope that was worth the effort. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'd like to hear what you feel about it now that you've got it there.
My very first thought is that it's so much more stable than some other things, like, this guy, he's wobbly, he shifts. This guy is solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's again the creeping in of the old language there, because solid is,
Right, it's not
kind
actually
of
solid,
makes
but
us think.
right.
Yes, I it's like these words that speak to a quality in a way where they also obscure the actual quality of the thing, because
Right.
there's
I think,
nothing static about this thing. And
yes,
what
I
is
think the word,
solid in it, the solidity is a dynamic outcome of the triangulation, right? So it's stable, it's super stable.
and I guess I know that because some spots where the string is not as taut as it should be, it does have a little bit more movement. I guess I was thinking perhaps it it appears far more stable. Like if I were looking to try to build something, I would look more to this style, perhaps, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And that's something where, yes.
Is this the basic isotropic vector matrix?
Well, what is the basic isotropic vector matrix?
I mean, would we just keep building and that would become the thing?
It is already, like even a single 1 frequency foureyes is already the isotropic vector matrix.
Oh,
But this, the matrix itself is the framework, so to speak. It is what the closest drawn spheres do if we keep it all symmetric. Because of course, there's ways in which we can play with the symmetries in there and break them. And then we don't have the isotropic vector matrix. However, we still have a matrix of vectors. And where this is relevant in language terms is in the conventional mathematics, this isotropic vector matrix is called FCC, face-centered cubic. And they don't say closest drawn spheres, but closest packed spheres. Mm-hmm. And most of, if not all of the other people you speak to in terms of synergetics will call it that too, closest packed spheres. But that is an artifact of the cannon ships where they packed the cannonballs together. And that is where in mathematics the problem of closest packed spheres comes from. And I don't like to call it that because to me they are not packed, they're drawn together as close as they can be. And it doesn't matter to them if I have them sit on the ground or not. They remain the closest drawn spheres. But the pattern, whatever which structure we grow out of the isotropic vector matrix, is the same, right? And is this always complementary polyform arrangement of 8eyes and 4eyes around them. So no 4eyes in any one of these structures shares an eye with another 4eyes. It shares corners or edges with them, but never do they share an eye, because then we would be breaking the symmetry.
So that is double this one. No, it's more than double.
Well, this is a 3 frequency. We've just grown the 2 frequency, like so, like this top bit. And this is really the next layer of spheres to it.
Okay.
And you can see now that we could be growing this on and on. We could add more layers of spheres to this. And with that, you know, like so, 4 frequency. This is a 1 frequency, 3 frequency, 4 frequency. And if we were to shift this plane out this way, we would grow it bigger that way. If we move the plane this way, we grow it smaller. And then there's the point of this thing here. And if the plane would go through the same point, that's where we get the vector equilibrium. That's the 0 phase of the 4eyes. And after that, it grows out the other way, right? So we'd have this. And we recall that was what I showed earlier with this thing. Right?
Well, I'm excited to try to make it bigger. See if I can. That's the real test, right? If I can recreate it.
Yeah. I mean, it's generally speaking, it's the same thing all the way through. But now you've got a unit here, and again, unity is plural and at minimum 2. In this case, it's already more than 2. But this unit embraces the 8eyes already. So you get a sense of what I was trying to say is that no 4eyes in this system share an eye with another 4eyes. If they did, it would look like this. And then we would have a mirror situation. similar to what you did in the very beginning, where you had these two foureyes that
Oh,
shared
right.
an
Okay.
eye,
Mm-hmm.
right? What they do here is they share the edges like so.
Mm.
And then we're talking isotropic vector matrix. If we didn't have that, it wouldn't be isotropic. And that would be where, rather than the face-centered cubic closest packed spheres of the conventional mathematics, we would get to not FCC, but the other C, whatever it is, where they have different names for these. But in synergetics, we understand that the isotropic vector matrix is the symmetrical pattern that we grow, where if we were to center in on a single sphere and go from there, we would have the vector equilibrium, where we have the balance. Everything from there is balanced. If I had this bottom half and the top half and turn the top one step, it would again be out of balance. It wouldn't be this isotropic thing, but we would have a mirror plane. So there's freedom to play with that. No problem at all. It's actually great fun to play with that. It's just in general, in synergetics, we recognize the isotropic one as the fundamental structure, the fundamental framework, the fundamental pattern where everything is the same everywhere. And I froze, didn't I? You
Or
frozen.
just a couple seconds.
Okay, you're still frozen on my end. But yeah, that it's a very sweet thing once you understand the isotropic variant, how the isotropic vector matrix is grown. You can grow so many shapes out of it. Like this is one of my favorite complexes here. I've grown this as a cardboard box here, like this. See, this one of my favorite shapes, and the whole structure looks like this. And this is a slice of the isotropic vector matrix. Indeed, it is the central slice of the 3-frequency 8eyes. And looking at this in detail, we find, for instance, the center here, that's an 8eyes. And you can see that every triangle that you're looking at on this plane here, that is the same orientation as this one. So the ones pointing up, they are all looking into 8eyes. So there's one in the middle, and then there's 6 around that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 6 around one 8eyes. And the other triangles that point the other way, pointing down, they're all looking into 4eyes. So in this case, there would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 4eyes, plus another 6 on the reverse that go inverted, and that tells us that this structure here contains 7 8eyes, 6 around 1, plus 6 4eyes of one orientation and 6 4eyes of the other. right? So we can qualify the volume of this. We can say it's so and so many 8-eyes and so many 4-eyes of one kind and so many of the other. And that tells us so much about what is going on here. But it's not really necessary to qualify. It's just an option that we have, which I think is precious. It's a priceless thing that we can do this. We cannot just quantify it by saying it's so many quanta, but we can qualify what kinds of volumes we have. And that's one out of so many examples of shapes that can be grown from this. And this is perhaps a good place to say that the isotropic vector matrix has another kind of name in synergetics, which is the octet truss, which is the name for a patent that Bucky got for this. In more common parlor, this is called the spaceframe. So spaceframe is the way that people call this when they build factories or airports and they need a support for a roof which doesn't need any pylons or whatever. They call this the spaceframe. And it's something that before Bucky played with it, Alexander Graham Bell used extensively for his kites. He built kites and he thought this was the future of aviation, tetrakites, using that pattern. But he didn't use it just for that. He also used it to grow actual structures for people to sit in or whatever. But generally speaking, when we do find this pattern used in the wild, in human applications, we find it cut open. So we very rarely would find a slice of the isotropic vector matrix that looks like this, where everything we look at is triangles. But instead they would be cutting them open so that you cut open the square, right? So it looks more like one of these sides here, where squares show, because then it's easy to make squares and boxes out of it. And that's where, if you look at a crane on a construction site, the arm of the crane is usually a slice of this, but it's usually cut open so that there's lots of squares in there. The same for those roofs of airports and factories. It's these 4-eyes, yes, they are present. If they weren't, it would be useless. But between them, there's all these.
Oh no, we lost him. The universe is telling us it's time to go have some lunch. I'm gonna wait a couple seconds so he can come back. Wait, you're muted, Jeannie.
Yeah, we should see if he comes back.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a minute. Yeah, because that would be terrible for him to come back and be gone, right? That would be so mean. Ah, it's fascinating, but my brain is gonna explode. It's so much.
Oh, here's mine. Here's mine.
Ooh, it's pretty.
You know, for every perfect polyhedra, there's like a million imperfect polyhedra. So
I have so many that are
I don't
imperfect.
consider it failure.
No, I love the little the 5-star thing. It's kind of like my little favorite one. And so I'm
Okay.
always like playing with that shape. And these are from the dollar store, by the way. These little little beads. I gotta buy more of
They're for
them.
braiding, I think, aren't they? The braiding beads.
I don't know. I don't care.
There he is. There he is.
Yay, he's coming back.
You're back. We thought it was the end.
We're like, well, he just hit his max, got sick of us, and ran away.
Yeah, that's what it was. Hey.
We're back.
You're
You are
muted.
muted.
You're muted. You're muted. Oh,
He's just making faces at us, but we can't hear him.
now he's not. You're not muted anymore, but
There's still no sound. Terrible. Struppi.
Struppi, are you okay? Struppi, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Now
I
can you hear
think
me?
he can hear us, but he just cannot respond.
You think he can hear us?
I don't know. He's making faces. I think he can hear us. Yeah,
Wow.
see? Stick your tongue out and maybe he'll do it. He'll do it back.
No, he can't hear us. Otherwise, he would have done it.
No. Yeah, right. He would have done it back.
You could say things about him. Struppi, how did you get that octagon? 1, 2,
Which one?
hexagon. He's in a, we're in squares and he's in a hexagon.
Right. Oh, he's connecting his audio. Thought you were talking to me. I was like, what do I have that's octagonal? It says connecting audio. We will have audio soon.
My audio is messed up.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess the universe is saying it's time
Should
for
we
lunch.
say goodbye? Should we say goodbye?
I think so. Hold on. He's going to go out and come back in. Oh, crap.
I'll try. Okay. What, you want to go to the beach or something? It's too late. No.
No, I don't want to go to the beach. I want food.
Oh,
I have
yeah,
peanuts.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I haven't eaten yet either.
No, I'm hungry. It's lunchtime. I did a 52 Living Ideas event right before. So I
Really?
forgot. I forgot. I didn't mean to. I forgot today was this one. And I signed myself up.
There's not another one later though. The other one got canceled. What?
Yep.
It got canceled. Okay. Because I couldn't decide which one I wanted to do. And then all of a sudden, when I just finally said, well, I better go to the Struppi one, then the other one was gone. So
you chose well.
Yeah, I chose well. Yeah, I thought this would be an easy one. I mean, to me, this looked like a really basic structure that would be just easy as pie. But
oh no, he's in the waiting room. Oh crap.
Oh,
I gotta let him in. Yeah, I will admit this was much harder than I thought it would be.
I'm just and plus
Wait.
Last time I had such success, I was so proud of myself, and then Joe was just like the failure that was like me the time before. But if I go back and see some of the others, before, I think I can probably, that will help me do this one. Yeah, I thought I could just.
Nice thing is it's recorded, so you can go back, because I'm gonna need to look at the recording and do it again. And I do want to do it again. I want to do it like bigger so that this part is a flower. I get the other two. He did the 3 frequency. I want to try that one.
Yeah, but I mean, it's going to take a whole lot of beads. I had a whole bead collection, and I said to myself, okay, something's got to go. And I guess I'm never going to do beads again. So I had gotten rid of all my beads. Now
see, that's the way the universe is.
Yeah.
Had you held on to them, you would have no need. Ooh, Struppi.
Struppi's there.
Are you back?
He's muted. You're muted,
Hear
though.
us?
Can you hear us? You can?
Thumbs up.
But you're muted. Unmute yourself. You can't? Nope, you did. Nope, you didn't.
All right, the universe is telling us it's time to call it quits then.
Yeah, we have to eat
lunch. Is that what I'm hearing?
Otherwise, we're going to die. And then we can't do the next one. I still have these. Look, I got more and more. I'm ready. I'm ready for this one. I'm ready to do the flat thing. Yeah.
Weaving thing. I got these for that. They're not entirely flat, but I'm hoping they'll work.
Like skewers? Bamboo?
I don't know. I guess they're dowel rods is what they called them.
Oh. Can't tell. Yeah.
Can he hear us? I'm not sure if he can hear us.
Yeah. You can hear us.
So he
Okay,
can
well,
hear us.
we'll sing goodbye. Goodbye, Struppi. Thank you so
He
much.
can. Good, good.
And don't
Yes, this
worry,
was
we're gonna learn
delightful.
more. We're gonna be smarter next time.
Right, we're
Especially
gonna watch
me.
the video
Yeah, I'll
after
watch
you
the
do it.
video. I'll practice. I'll buy some more
Yes.
beads. I needed more beads. I should have started with more beads. That was my problem.
That's
He's
the
got a
fun
minute.
part.
He's a minute. He's doing something.
All right.
Oh, he's going on that.
Struppi number 2. The Struppis are multiplying.
Oh, I see. Oh,
No, you're muted. Wait.
Okay. Okay.
Yes,
I hear you.
success.
At least I can talk to you this way and say goodbye, because I don't know what's going on. I've got thrown out of the call, and after that my audio just wouldn't work. And I had troubles with the audio even before the call. I don't know, perhaps it's this computer, it's getting too old, and maybe I am. But yeah, at least I'm able to say goodbye this way, because it was really fun, and I'm looking forward to doing the stuff with the skewers and the stirring things. The skewers work for the weave too, but not as good as the flat ones. So if you could manage to get some of these from some
Okay.
coffee
All
to
right.
go place or whatever, they are easier to work with, to get a hand on, get a grab on that. And I hope my audio troubles are working out next time better. But yeah, it was fun. It was so good to play, and I got cut short with the explanations, but that's what I get for going on against the squares. People always cut the isotropic vector matrix open because they think of pyramids on squares everywhere, and to me it doesn't make sense, because it loses the integrity rather than playing with the integrity. And I think that's something where, synergetics offers us a different look at the context of these things, like a more universal context. And I think it's worth taking that perspective every now and then, because it goes with the integrity. And Bucky was actually at some place, I don't even know where, in synergetics or somewhere, he spoke of the synergetic effect of the isotropic vector matrix being surprising to engineers, because they would be using this, space frame, as they call it, and they would be doing their calculations, how they do. They take the any part of the system individually, and they calculate the stress it can take and whatever, and then they would extrapolate the strength of the whole system based on that, and they would find that they're orders of magnitude off. And that is because they failed to understand the whole, right? In a frame of mind where the triangle is just the strongest shape, but it's not identified as structure as such, it's easy to look at this framework, the space frame, and cut it open so that it's got all the squares and everything, make it work with the cubes, lose the integrity, and then be surprised by its strength still, because where's the strength coming from? It's not coming from the individual parts. It's the interplay, the synergy of the whole. And that is out of frame. It's out of mind. It's out of field. It's something that is surprising when it comes in, but it wouldn't have to be, right? That's why I'm trying to communicate these things, because maybe you recall when you had the session with Tom
Miller.
Miller, yeah. I was really positively surprised by his framework, like the basics of his system that he developed, because they spoke synergetics in a very clear way. Because when he opens up his framework, he begins with a vertical of the Earth, right? He goes with the radius of the Earth and says, let's do precession and go in a right angle to that. And then he doesn't just open squares from there, but he opens triangles. So he's doing this. He's taking the vector equilibrium and growing it sideways out of the vertical of the Earth, like so. And by doing so, what he's got is this level triangles, right? Looking at the top of what he would do, we would have this, and it looks like so, rather than like so. And that gives us the level ground of the triangles. And that to me was like, nice. You know, here's someone who's actually doing synergetic thinking, practicing that. At the heart of everything that he grew out of that is the level playing ground of Earth, of the triangles, rather than having the squares awkwardly arranged as, you know, the plane of reference. And that is something that I want to see more of. I really hope that more people do that shift in their frame of mind, where they finally, you know, it's got to do with this one. We've grown half of this today. We've grown one of these. And if you put the one that you've done down, it's going to sit like so. It's just going to sit on one of its eyes and be happy. It's not going to be like so, like the pyramid would be, right? Because if it were like this, it would just tip over, set down like so. Compare that to this. On this one, all 8 electrons on the outer shell are present, if you like. All 8 eyes of the 8 eyes here have a little 4 eyes sticking out of them. So this could not just sit on the ground like so, because there's a little tip on the bottom here. And it would only be level if it was spinning, but any other way, it would be sitting like this. And then the pyramid would be present, you know, the 8 eyes would look like 2 pyramids. And this is every single box you've ever lived in has space-time in it oriented this way, because it's aligned with the box. The box is sitting on the ground, and therefore space-time itself is out of tune. It's not allowed to be at rest. And this is the shift that I want to see in the world, where people look at this and understand that box is not at rest. It can't be. Let's put it this way, which kind of defeats the purpose of the box, honestly. But it gives space-time itself a pause. It allows us to actually come to rest and to integrate with the ground, integrate with the whole of the universe. And I so hope that it's not just me looking at the world like this anymore, because I don't know if we would be able to recognize the world if we were like if we were attuned to that stuff. Everything that people are doing right now would be alienating. It would feel strange. It would feel like, why are we doing this? And I hope that I'm not the only one to see that anymore, you know. So I hope that today's playground, today's session has helped a little bit in giving more sense, more feeling to this kind of shift in perspective, this shift in mind, and you know, perhaps one day you wake up and have the same sensation that I once had, where I felt for the first time in my life like I wasn't walking on the earth, but rather along the earth. So the ground shifted beneath my feet, quite literally. I felt like I was walking around earth and not on it anymore. And I do, from my own experience, know that this is possible to experience that. So I hope that perhaps these things that we do help you and everyone else to get into that frame of mind. Because as unfamiliar with it as we are in our conceptual way of being, in our thinking mind, our bodies are at home in that world. They are grown out of it and into it, and they've never known anything else except for this manufactured reality of yeah.
Let's call that a good ending note.
Yes.
That's again, Jamie, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, yes, Struppi, this was fantastic. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. I am looking forward to playing with this shape some more, maybe trying out the next level and then seeing what you have for us next month.
Yeah, I think next time we'll do something simple and try some of these and look at what they are good for. But yes, please play with it, and if you do have straws, give them a try with this too, because the straws have a beautiful kind of scale, you know, where this is actually big enough. I don't know about your head, but a straw 8eyes. Okay, not necessarily with my big knot on my head here, but a straw 8eyes is big enough for my head to go in. So, you know, that's a good size.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you, Maritza.
Thanks, Jeannie. Good night, all.
Goodbye.
Bye.